Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So, you can get her all in. You already saw the picture, I know. So we are going to be making an Annabelle or a Raggedy Ann, whichever one you want to use it for. Yeah, we're going to be making an Annabelle doll today. The measurements are going to be in the description of this doll, or in the picture. I don't know where I'm going to put them yet. But anyway, we're also going to be making the clothes, the dress, the shirt, or the sweater, and the pantaloons. So let's get started. We're going to start with black. All the yarn I'm using for this project is a 4-weight worsted, except for the shirt. I don't have a worsted blue, but it's still a 4-weight. So I'm going to be using a 5mm. I'm also going to be using this light because black is very difficult for me to see, so I have to use a light so I can see what I'm doing. But thankfully it's just the boots that we got to get through. So let's just jump right into this. I know that casts a bit of a shadow, but I'm going to do my best. So we're going to start with a slip knot. Now mine did not work out. Not sure what the problem is. Anyway, you're going to chain 7. In the first stitch you can get into, you're going to put 2 single crochets in the same space. Then you're going to single crochet 4. We're making the boots. And in the last stitch you're going to put 4 single crochets all inside this last stitch. So you can pull your slip knot closed, and then you can turn it. We're going to be working here on the other side. Try to weave in your tail here from your slip knot. So you're going to single crochet 4, weaving in this tail, starting in the very stitch next to, that's my knot, my slip knot right there. So the very next stitch. Might be hard to find because this is black. So that's 4 single crochets. I'm going to slip stitch into this next weird sideways stitch. I'm going to chain 1. In this next weird sideways stitch, I'm going to put 2 single crochets. And in the next stitch I'm going to put 2 single crochets. And now I'm going to do 4 single crochets, 1 in each stitch. The next 2 stitches I'm going to put 2 half double crochets in each. And in these 2, I'm going to put 2 double crochets. Let me get my thingy. So we're going to be doing back loops only. These back loops are standing right up and they're looking right at you, so we don't have to turn anything to try to get into them. You're going to get 1 single crochet in each stitch around in the back loops only. Go into your next stitch, slip stitch, and chain 1. That turns it into, turn it right side in. So this is in the middle, but this turns it from a, well, it's starting to look like a foot, but this kind of brings it up like this. That's what the whole point of the back loop is. So now you can do the exact same thing, but in the entire stitch. So 1 single crochet in each stitch. Should have 24 stitches. So next you're going to single crochet 11. Push back up to the toe area. You're going to do 1 single crochet and a decrease 3 times. So 1 single crochet, and then your decrease. That's 1. 1 single crochet and a decrease. That's 2. 1 single crochet and a decrease. That's 3 times, and then you're going to single crochet 3 to your slip stitch. That's 3 single crochets, and then your slip stitch and your chain 1. So you're going to single crochet 10. Oh, that was tough to get into for some reason. It's 10. You're going to decrease 4 times, just decreases. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to single crochet 3. You're going to do a slip stitch and chain 1. So your little booty is coming together. Sorry, I know that casts a lot of shadows, but when I'm working, the light should be on it. I can't see in my viewfinder, so I don't know. So now you're going to single crochet 6. You're going to decrease 4 times. I know, we're way back here. But it'll all work out. These are elongated stitches, so. Oh, good lord. You're gonna single crochet 3. You're gonna slip stitch. You're gonna chain 1. You've got a weird seam coming up the side, I get that, but it shouldn't be that noticeable in this black, so it shouldn't really matter. So now you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Alright, so my slip stitch is over here. So before I get to it, I want to change to red. So before I switch colors, I like to weave in. I haven't stuffed this yet either. So I like to weave in the color I'm going to be switching to a few stitches before I need to switch to it. That way I'm not holding 2 pieces of yarn trying to weave my pieces in. So I just have a few more before I get to my end. So I'm just weaving in the red now. It just makes my life way easier as far as weaving. So I am at my slip stitch. I'm going to slip stitch with the red. So I'm going to drop the black. I'm going to go into my, I'm going to weave in the black. I'm going to go into my slip stitch area. I got the black that I'm using. I am going to slip stitch. I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, weaving in now this black tail for 14 stitches. It's just way easier to hold 1 piece of yarn. So if you don't want your color change to be on the side of the leg like this, you can move it to the back. Doesn't really matter where you move. You can just go over your slip stitch that you had. You're just going to create a whole new seam, but you're not going to see the black seam. You will see the red and white. We're going to be alternating colors here. So I just got this to come around. I'm going to find my scissors. I'm going to snip off the black because I need to add the white. So let me reach for my white. I'm going to add the white now. And we're only doing 8 rows of switching, so it's not going to be as horrible as it may seem. And again, I'm not stuffing it yet because it's just too difficult to deal with and try to do all this at the same time. So I'm not ready to use my white, but I'm going to weave it in. So I'm still in the red till I get back around. But I'm going to do my switch at the back of the boot and not the side of the boot because I don't want it to be noticeable. So I'm going to go beyond this red, beyond my slip stitch. Get into my slip stitch. Can't get into it. Holy cow, I must have pulled way too tightly. So I'm gonna slip stitch. Gosh, I have no idea why that was so tight. So I'm gonna slip stitch where I'm supposed to slip stitch. I'm gonna chain 1, but I'm not gonna do my color change until I get around here. And then after that, I'm just going to do the same thing over and over and over again. I know that doesn't make any sense. You'll see where the color change is. You don't need the slip knot to tell you that you're at the end. So I'm right about the middle of my heel. And now I'm going to drop the red. I'm not cutting this red off. I'm going to carry this red throughout the project. So we've done 1 row of the red. We're going to do 4 rows of the red, 4 rows of the white. We're going to have 8 rows all together. So I'll do a few with you so you understand what we're doing. It's just 1 row of each color. So now I'm going to grab the white, and I'm just going to start using it. I'm weaving in now the red. And again, it's only 1 piece of yarn. You don't have to weave in 2 if you know, just, you're not going to be cutting this off at this point. So, and it's just a single crochet. We're just single crocheting. We're not doing anything fancy. It's the single crochet. So I am just gonna continue around. So I'm gonna put a stitch in my slip knot area, but I'm just gonna keep going. I'm not gonna chain 1 or slip stitch anymore. I'm just gonna keep going because I just don't want that seam. And when you do it amigurumi, there is no seam. So now I'm back to my color change. I'm going to drop the white and weave that in while I use the red. This is probably going to be a 2-part video. There's a lot to this doll. So I'm still weaving in the white because I need to take it with me. It's so quick because it's only 14 stitches. You might want to continue to count your stitches to make sure you're still at 14 stitches. So I'm at my color change. I'm going to drop the red and I'm going to switch to the white. So we can now cut off the red. I just took it all the way around just to be on the safe side. So we'll get rid of that for now. So whatever skin color you're using, we're going to add that now. So you could have added it earlier. I didn't, so I have 2 pieces I need to weave in, which is no big deal for me. I know it may be a big deal for some of you. Once you've added your skin color, you're going to do 7 rows of 1 single crochet with this skin color, and then you can fasten off. And keep in mind, you still need to have 14 stitches around. So go ahead and make your 7 rows of your skin color. You can stuff it, you can fasten off, and you can sew the top shut because we are done with the legs. Reason being that we're sewing the legs on and not building the legs on is because the Raggedy Ann doll has, first of all, sewn on legs, and I wanted it to be able to sit down, so that's the reasons. So I will meet you back here after your 7 rows is done and your leg is all prepped and finished and ready to go, and we will move on and start the body. Alright, so I've done my 7 rows. I'm just going to go into the next stitch. I'm going to slip stitch and I'm going to fasten off with a sewing tail. So you're going to need enough to sew it shut and sew it to the doll when we're done. So I would have to say that doing the red and white socks is probably the worst part of this whole project. So now that the worst is over. So when you're stuffing this, just make sure that you're stuffing it, your legs equally, so they are equal sizes. You can actually stuff them differently and then they'll look like different sizes when they're not different sizes. It's all just a matter of how you stuff it. So you would think stuffing is just stuffing, but now the legs are quite lanky because that's what they are on the regular doll. So you're gonna have to make sure you stuff them fairly stiff. So that, I mean, you could do whatever you want. You don't have to stuff them so that they're stiff. Find a weird spot right there. But they do have to be the same size. So this one still looks fatter than this one, but that could be my eyes. But anyway, stuff them, make sure that they're the same size, and just be careful because we did shape these so that you have a left and a right, so you gotta watch which, when you go to sew it on, which way you're sewing it on. So anyway, anywho, let's get the body started. Alright, so in keeping with your skin color, still using the same hook. Oh, I might have just made a mess. No, oh yeah, I did. So we're gonna do the body and the head is all gonna be one piece. So we're gonna start with a magic ring. And you put 8 single crochets inside this magic ring. In each stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. So after your first one, you're going to put a stitch marker. Then you can put your second one in there. So you should have 16 when you're done. Next rounds can be 1 single crochet and an increase. So that's your 1 single crochet with your stitch marker. Your increase is going to be 2 single crochets in that same space. Your next stitch is going to be 1 single crochet. Your next stitch will be 2 single crochets. So that's your increase, and that's your repeat. So repeat this all the way around, and at the end you should have 24 stitches. So next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's 1 single crochet and your stitch marker. The next stitch gets 1, so that's your 2 single crochets. Then the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So 1, 1, 2. Repeat this all the way around, and you will have 32 stitches at the end of it. So each row goes up by 8 because we started a magic ring with 8 single crochets and then we did 2 in each space. So it just works out that each row will be increased by 8. So you should have 32 stitches. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet in each of those 32 stitches. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. That's 1 single crochet with your stitch marker. Next stitch, 1 single crochet, and the next stitch, 1 single crochet. So that's 3 single crochets and your increase. You'll have 2 single crochets in the same space. Three single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So repeat this all the way around, and at the end you should have 40 stitches. So your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. With your stitch marker, that's 4 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So repeat this all the way around, and at the end you should have 48 stitches. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet in each of those 48 stitches. So your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase. This is going to be your last increase round. So that's your number 1 with your stitch marker. That's 5 single crochets and an increase. So you can repeat this all the way around, and at the end of it you should have 56 stitches. So you should have 56 stitches. So for the next 10 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 56 stitches. Don't forget your stitch marker, number 1. And I will meet you back here after our 10 rows is done. Alright, so I've got my 10 rows done, and this is what it should look like at this point. And I know it seems like it's really big, but we're going to start decreasing now, so it'll change how this looks. So we're going to start with a 5 single crochet decrease. So that is number 1. So 5 single crochets, and then your decrease. So repeat this all the way around, and at the end you should have 48 stitches, and then you can go ahead and put 1 single crochet in each of those 48 stitches. and I'll meet you back here. So your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. So number 1, it always gets the stitch marker. That's 4 single crochets and then your decrease. So do this all the way around, and at the end you should have 40 stitches, and then you can go ahead and put 1 single crochet in each of those 40 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. Alright, so your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. So 1 single crochet and your marker. 3 single crochets and then your decrease. So you can do this all the way around, and you should have a total of 32 stitches when you're done. And then you can do 1 single crochet in each stitch of those 32 stitches. And I will meet you on the other side. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. You can stuff this at any time. Actually, let's do some of that now before we do any more. So pull your stuffing apart so you don't get any bunching. You don't want this to be super round, but you don't want it to not be super round. So I like to get it in there and then push it and turn it. So I'm pushing all the stuffing to the outside. But for this, I'm not going to do that overly too much because she's going to end up being really fat if I do. And Annabelle just is not a fat doll. I mean, we want a little bit of girth because, you know, it's a dolly toy and kids need something to hold on to. I know personally, when I was a kid, I had a Raggedy Ann doll, and wasn't much to her. Not a whole lot to snuggle into, do you know what I mean? So when I designed this doll, I kind of wanted her to be snuggly as much as Annabelle. I'm promoting it as Annabelle because that seems to be the popular thing for, you know, kids these days. They have no idea what a Raggedy Ann doll is. So I think that's good for now because I still got some work to do. We still have some work to do. So we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease. So that's your first one with your marker. You don't want this to be hard to hold on to either. So that's 2 and then your decrease. So at the end of this you should have 24 stitches. And then we've been doing the 1 in each stitch all the way around kind of a deal. This time we're going to do 4 rows of 1 in each stitch after we do our decreases. So I will put my pause screen up and you can get all that done, and I'll meet you on the other side. So I've got my 4 done. This is what it should look like at this point. Like a little clay vase type of deal. So our next, our final decrease will be 1 single crochet and a decrease. So there's my stitch marker. 1 single crochet, and then your decrease. So we're building the neck area now. So at the end of this, you're going to have 16 stitches. That's about as wide as I wanted the neck. So, and then after you do your decrease, you're going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each of those 16 stitches to build the neck. And then I'll meet you back here after, and we'll start building the head. So this is the last of the, I know this looks funny because there's no stuffing in it. We're just going to put some in there now before we start building the head. It might be a little difficult to hold on to after, but. So if this bounces back, then you know that it's full enough, but mine left a little bit of a divot. So I know I still gotta get down into this part and fill it better. So once I spread it out to the sides, I shove more filling down in the middle. I kind of dig a hole. It's gonna have legs sewn on the bottom, so it doesn't really matter how round or how flat it is on the bottom. The flatter the better, because once we sew the legs on, we want it to sit up on its own. So we can just fill this neck part a little bit. So she does have a funny shaped body, but she also has all kinds of clothes on. So the clothes look great over the body, but the body is going to look funny a little bit. Just a little bit. So I think that's good for me for now. I'm going to start building on the head so I can kind of stuff as I go. So I don't, oops, I just pulled my thing out. So your next round is going to be 2 single, so we have 16 stitches right now. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each of those 16 stitches. So after the first one, you're going to put your marker. Then you're going to put your second one in that same space. So 2 in the same space all the way around. So I got 32 stitches, obviously. 16 and 16 is 32. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. It's very, very squishy, but we want a nice round head. So that's your 1 single crochet, so that the next stitch gets your increase of 2 single crochets. So this is what it should look like right now. It's pretty funny looking. So you should have 48 stitches, and the next 6 rows you're going to put 1 single crochet into those 48 stitches. It's pretty squishy. It gets easier as you go up in rows with the 1 single crochet in each stitch. Right now it's pretty squishy, so just gotta make sure that you keep your work pulled apart a little bit. It won't stretch it. It won't stretch it out. It'll go back into shape. Just make sure you're hitting every single stitch. And I will meet you back here on the other side. So this is what you should have at this point. So we're going to start decreasing. So we're going to start with a 5 single crochet decrease. So that's 5, and then your decrease. So continue that, and then after you can put 1 single crochet in each stitch around. I will put my pause screen up and I'll see you on the other side. So you should have 40 stitches. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. So there's 1 with your stitch marker. There's 2, 3, and 4. I know I'm shaking the camera, but if I was to hold this up like this, this is how close I would be to the camera. So I gotta lay it in a funny position. And then your decrease. And then you can just repeat that all the way around, and then after that you can do 1 single crochet in each of those stitches. I'll put the number on the screen as well as what you're doing, and I'll see you on the other side. So you should have 32 stitches, and that's counting your so your last decrease is under your stitch marker on every row so far, and so that's not counting that. You should have 32 stitches. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. So your first one always gets the marker. So that would be 2 and 3, and then your decrease. So again, same thing, you can do this all the way around, and then you're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch. And just for time constraints, because it's going to be a large project, I will meet you on the other side. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. And then of course the round after that is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then your decrease. Two single crochets and a decrease. So repeat that all the way around, and then do your 1 single crochet in each stitch, and I'll meet you back on the other side. Alright, so before we go any further, we're gonna need to put some stuffing in this. Make sure you're getting down into that neck. Super important. Because even though you're not sewing the head on and it's attached, you can still get a wobbly neck. And you don't want to get a wobbly neck. So anyway, continue stuffing yours. I'm going to continue to stuff mine like I showed you. Pushing it out to the outside or all the way around. And then I'll meet you back here and we'll continue. So this is what you should have. This is what it should look like at this point. So your next row is going to be 1 single crochet and a decrease. I can find my end. So don't think I have to show you. I think at this point you should have it. So because it's going to be difficult to do on camera. It's pretty full. I mean, I'll try. Point it down more. That's 1 single crochet and then your decrease. So at this point, don't worry about what your numbers are. We're just finishing the head off. Everything is fine. It looks nice and round. Numbers don't matter. Everybody's so worried about their numbers all the way down to the last bit of head, and you know, your numbers matter in here. They don't matter up here. So don't worry about what you have or what you don't have or what I have, and you need to know my numbers, and you know, it doesn't matter. Crochet should not be that serious, especially when you're just closing up a head, so it's no big deal. So if you are faster than me, your next round is going to be 6 decreases. And then you're going to sew the head shut with whatever's left. So I don't know how many stitches I have, but I'm going to do my 6 decreases because that's what I wrote down when I designed it. So I'm going to trust that that is correct. I know it's very hard to show you because I don't have my wide angle lens yet. Everything is backed up. I'm sure you guys know as well that when you order stuff online, it's taking forever because of this pandemic. So I think that was 3. And again, 6 doesn't mean it has to be 6. Whatever you're comfortable with. You can stop here for all I care and sew it shut. It doesn't have to be 6. 6 is just what I did, but you know, if you'd like a different look to the top of your head, then you can do whatever, but that's my 6. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and I'm going to slip stitch, and then I'm going to fasten off. So I'm going to fasten off with a tail that's big enough to sew the top shut and weave in a bit. So you don't need a big long tail. So that's what you should have left. So you're going to want to get rid of your stuffing. My stuffing away since it seems to be all over. So you only need to pick up 1 piece of yarn for this, so just go in this way and then out this way. You don't have to pull tight. Not yet. Go in this way and out the next stitch. One more time, in and out. So once you've done that, now you can give it a pull. Closes it right up like that. Sorry, closes it right up like that. You can just come across like this, go into your loop like that, and then give a nice snug pull. Now you're going to have a bunch of hair on top of the head, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. And then you can just weave in and out just for added security, so you know it's not going to go anywhere. So we're also putting a wig cap on this head for the hair. We're not just leaving it like that. It's going to be a wig cap that's going to be what we put the hair into. So once you weave a couple of times back and forth, upside down, and you know, whichever direction, I like to still tie a knot just for added security. It doesn't have to be a tight knot, just needs to be a knot. And then you can take that knot and jam it down inside the doll, that little tail and everything. So once you jam it down inside the stuffing, the consensus is, the theory is that it's supposed to get lodged in there so that it can't really get undone. So far this is what you should have. It looks like a little pawn from a chess game. Now we're going to move on to clothes. So I know I said let's start making clothes, but I'm gonna make the arms, and then we can sew the arms and legs on, and then we can make the clothes. It just makes more sense. I'm gonna adjust my lighting here. Oh, that might be too dark. All right. First, we're going to make the thumb. So I don't know if you've noticed, but she actually has hands. So you don't have to do this because, I mean, it's quite easy, but you're gonna make the thumb first. So we're gonna do a magic ring with 4 single crochets. Pull that. For 2 rows, you're just gonna put 1 single crochet in each of those 4 stitches. I'm not gonna lie, this gets difficult, especially if you have fat fingers like me and no fingernails. Oh. There should be 2 pieces of yarn there, but I couldn't seem to get underneath it. So that's my first round. So before I go any further, I want to make sure this is pulled tight, and I'm going to tie this into a knot. The thumb is very, 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 very tiny. Don't tighten that, because then it'll just go through. And don't cut all of the tail off. So that's my first round. I'm going to try to turn this. Might not be possible yet. Turn this out so a little bit so I can see. So that was my first round. I'm gonna do round number 2. I can find both pieces of yarn. Just make sure you're getting under both pieces of yarn. It's such a small project. Thankfully. There. Now I can turn it right side in. So, turn it right side in, you can use the end of your thingamabobber. And that is it. I'm going to poke that down. That's it, that's your thumb, you can fasten off. It is tiny. So go into your next stitch. Slip stitch. Fasten off. You don't need a sewing tail with this. Because we're going to crochet it to the hand. So set that aside for now. We're going to do the arm, or start the hand and do the arm part. So we're going to do the same thing. Put my scissors out of the way. Magic ring with 4 single crochets. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch. So just count to 8. instead of trying to get a stitch marker into this small space. It's tight. That's 2. Four. 6. And this last one. Just make sure you're getting 2 pieces of yarn. This is 8. And you'll know you've come back around because of this guy here, which you're going to make sure is pulled shut. Tie your knot. You don't have to do this. You can just weave in. It's fine. I just, I don't know if I can do it with my left hand. Oh, I just worked right-handed scissors with my left hand. Anyway, so now you're going to do 1 single crochet. You're going to need your stitch marker at this point. I'm going to use yellow. So you could probably try to turn it a little bit. I know some of you are used to tiny work. I am not used to tiny work. I don't do tiny things. So this was not easy for me, but I got it done. So that's my 1 single crochet and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. So you should have 12 stitches. Oops, I'm stuck. You should have 12 stitches at this point. For the next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet into those 12 stitches. So you can just count to 24. So that's my 24. Now we're going to do a decrease. So we're going to do 1 single crochet and a decrease. So that's my 1 single crochet. You're going to have to put your stitch marker back in. And then your decrease. So this should take you down to 8 stitches. So now I should have 8 stitches. I'm going to do 1 single crochet in those 8 stitches for my next round. So I'm just going to count to 8. That's 8. So this is where I'm going to sew the thumb on. So the first thing you're going to do is go into this next stitch. Right next to where you fastened off, go into that stitch. Yarn over. Pull through, make a single crochet. So now that you've done that, you're going to single crochet into the thumb, like you're just single crocheting around. That's all you're doing. You can attach arms this way too if you're building a doll. So I'm going to stick the tail from my hand, from my thumb into the hand. So I've got one more stitch before I get back to my, sorry, my camera shut off at a very bad time. So one more stitch before I get back to my hand for the thumb. I'm just going to treat it like a regular old single crochet. I'm going to go into that stitch. I'm going to make sure I pull tight. I got a little bit of my tail in there, but I can just pull that back out. And I'm just going to continue to go around. So this is where I had my stitch marker, and this is where I'm probably going to put my stitch marker back, because that's where I went in to attach my thumb. So that's how you attach a thumb to make a hand. So all you're going to do is 2 more rows of what should be 12 stitches. I hope mine's 12 stitches. And then we'll start to decrease. So again, I'm not going to use my stitch marker. I'm just going to count to 24, because I know that my stitch marker goes right in this spot before I started the thumb. So just hold your thumb down if it's easier. There is a stitch right there. So that's number 1. Well, actually that's number 2, because my stitch marker stitch is number 1.
3, 4.
So that's my 12. So I've got 12 stitches around. That's my other 12. So that's how you do a hand with a thumb. So you can put a little bit of stuffing in here. We're going to start decreasing. So that's the same way you'd make a mitten too for kids' winter, or like winter gloves, mittens. So I'm just going to put a little bit of stuffing. The hand really shouldn't take a lot of stuffing, and I'm not even going to try to get down into the thumb because it's just stupid. It'd be a big waste of my time. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. So this is where my stitch marker should have been this whole time. I wasn't using it. So that's number 1. So that's 2 single crochets and then my decrease. So this should bring you down to 9 stitches. And for the next 12 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet into those 9 stitches. And I will meet you after. So this is it. So 12 rows and your arm is done. So you can fasten off and sew the top closed. I never did show you the arm. The arm looks funny from this angle. That's a bad angle. Camera's a little too close, but sew the top shut because you're sewing it on like we do most of our arms. So sew the top shut so it's easier to sew. I'm sewing it on at the neck like I usually do with my dolls. And then stuff it along the way. Sew top shut. Make your second one. I will put all my screens up for you. And I will meet you on the other side. So I've got all my arms and legs are all done now. So to sew the top shut, I'm not going to sew all this on with you either. Very hard to sew on camera, but I will show you. Anyway, you want to make sure your foot is straight. So I'm just going to go through the very first stitch. But I'm going to do whip stitches for this. I think I've got too much. So I'm at the back. I'm going to come around to the front so I can whip stitch this. Now a whip stitch is generally back loop to back loop, but I'm just going to go into all the loops. Doesn't have to be pretty, perfect, or otherwise because it's just getting sewn onto something. But try to hit every single stitch. So that's how you sew a top shut. So as far as where to sew it onto your doll, let me get my pins. I don't know why I've got so many. Let me get some pins out. These are wig pins, but they still work just perfectly fine. So we've got nothing going on your little pawn, your chest pawn. So I mean, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter where, I guess. Oops. Let's make sure I've got it on the right side. So this foot's, that's this side. You want it to be able to sit. Now this doll is just going to be too heavy to sit on its own like that without me holding it. If the leg is too far back, but you also don't, I mean the leg's long, right? So that was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th and 9th row up so that it sits on its own. If I went back like that, oh, I guess it kind of still does. It leans back, but, oh, I gotta change my battery. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry. I would have to take all her clothes off to see. Let me pull her pants down. Let's see. Oh, I did it like literally the 3rd row up on that other one. So 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go four rows between the 4th and the 5th row. So you keep it back wide enough that so I'm gonna go down, zoom in a little bit for you. So I'm gonna go down into the doll as close as I can to the leg itself. Sorry, I forgot to turn my devices off. I'm gonna grab some of the doll and I'm gonna come back up into the leg. So I'm gonna do invisible stitches, which means I'm gonna come in as close as I can to the leg, through the doll, and up into the leg. When I pull, it should pull the stitch. I'm sorry, I'm zoomed in way too much. My hand's just getting in the way. Should pull the stitch underneath the doll. It should. Now, another way you can do it is go down into the leg and into the doll and pop out somewhere. So you can do it this way too. It'll have probably the same hold. The only thing is you gotta try to get back into that same hole and come back out near the doll, not in the doll. Come back out. You're just moving your yarn at this point. You're not sewing anything. So it is a little more time consuming, and if you don't go back into that same hole, then it's just not a good hold. So I'm just going to do my invisible stitches. That's what it's going to look like when it flops down, so you can see the stitches. and I don't think it looks very good. So I'm just going to come around to this side. And I'm actually going to sew the other side. And I don't generally do this, but I didn't on my other doll, and I think it just looks like crap. So when the leg is bent the other way, it just looks like crap. So we'll see if this makes it look any better. Might tighten up the stitches a bit so they don't look like that. It's very hard to sew on camera, so and I don't sew well, so me even giving sewing lessons is an oxymoron. Just make sure you go up into that doll. So that looks a little bit better when the leg flops down. But I'm just going to go down into the doll this way. I'm getting all tangled now. Anyway, that's how I sew on, which probably isn't very good, but anyway, sew the legs on. I'll meet you right back here and show you how to do the arms. So I got my legs on. They look funny, but I got my legs on. So, next is arms. The arms get sewn on right at the neck area. So you just gotta make sure your thumb is pointed out, like on a person. That is the only thing you gotta watch out for when sewing on the arm. Well, a placement, but make sure that thumb is sticking out this way to the front of the body. And then we're just going to do the same invisible stitches, but I'm going to start mine with one of these in and out, just because I can't really get a good angle with a camera in between my legs. So I'm going to come up into the arm through the same hole I just went down, but I came up into a different spot. So just make sure you're going down into the doll. It's a little harder, you know, you got to bend the head right back. It's a little harder to show you on camera too, and try to get my arm on straight. So hopefully you get the idea. That's one of the main reasons people probably don't sew on camera. Very difficult. Most people like to hold stuff close to their body when they do stuff like this. That's why I'm only going to show you the one. And generally I got one sewn on good, the other one not so good. You don't need to do under the arm. If you do under the arm will stick up like this. And you don't want it to do that. It'll stick up like that anyway after we put the shirt on it. But yeah, so once you're done your invisible stitches, you can just go down to the last bit of your doll. And the same with your legs. I didn't show you that, but so same with your legs. You're just gonna give that a nice snug tug. You're gonna weave in and out, so you're gonna go in as close as you can to your lead, and then you're just gonna hopefully go down into the filling, the stuffing. And that just looks like a stitch when you pull it. So they say 3 different directions to confuse the yarn. If somebody does tug on this arm and try to take it off, the yarn has to go in 3 different directions through the stuffing and everything. So 3 different directions. Then I like to tie a knot. Doesn't have to be a tight knot, just has to be a knot. Cut some of it off. And then I'm going to poke this down into the stuffing. So that knot should grab the stuffing and stop the arm from completely coming off. That's the consensus, that's the theory. I've never had an arm actually get ripped off, so I don't know if it works. So I'm going to go ahead and sew on my second arm, and I'll meet you right back here. That's my guy. That's my guy so far. I know my craft table's a mess.